With the recent launch of Starship, the most powerful rocket ever made by humanity, we have taken another step toward a future that, until now, we could only imagine in our minds. But such a launch was full of unusual events, from a rain of huge pieces of concrete thrown more than 150 meters high, to others thrown more than 500 meters away. Debris hitting cars, several engines shutting down, and even a 5-second delay for the rocket to leave the launch pad. But despite all that, the launch was a real success, but also a failure at the same time. It was a success because the main goal of the mission was achieved, which was for the rocket to leave the launch pad without major problems. And as the engineer and systems quality manager Kate Tice said at the event, everything that happens after the launch is a bonus. And in fact, after leaving the launch pad, the rocket flew for 2 minutes and 20 seconds, enough time to generate valuable data. The ongoing development of this colossus, that one day it may put humanity on Mars. Although shortly after, it began to lose control and started to spin. But at the same time, the launch was considered a failure. And it all started at the moment of the launch. At first, the engineers didn't calculate very well what the combined force of 30 Raptor engines would do to the base and the launch platform. That's because 3 of them had already shut down at the moment of launch, as the telemetry shows. Because actually there were supposed to be 33 engines in total, generating 74,500,000 newtons of thrust, which is about 7,596,885 kilograms of force. But the combined force of the 29 engines was enough to cause real damage to the launch pad and on the ground right below. As the images show, the damage was severe. The thrust was able to pierce and create a crater in the concrete pad, and even expose the foundation of the platform. Something completely unexpected happened. Analyzing the launch footage, you can see that at 7 seconds into the flight, 2 large pieces of concrete of considerable size are thrown to estimated heights of over 110 meters. Remember that the launch tower is 146 meters tall, and the pieces reached close to the height where the arms of the Mechazilla mechanism were. But it doesn't stop there. Another video from a different launch angle shows a shower of dozens of pieces of concrete, among other things, hitting Boca Chica Beach, which is more than 500 meters away from the launch platform, which reveals the magnitude of the force and the extent of the destruction the rocket was causing. A video from outside the launch complex also captured a car containing cameras being hit by a large piece of concrete, which landed at the time of the launch. That car was within a 500-meter radius of where the launch was taking place. With all this evidence, some sources even claim that some pieces may have been landed at almost supersonic speeds. All of this caught SpaceX off guard, since they conducted several static tests with the booster and no damage ever occurred. Most likely because they never actually conducted a test with all 33 engines at full power, which would make the damage that could arise evident. The test done 2 months earlier was with only 31 engines and at 50% power. And do you know what was done and tested at 100% power? The channel's new website, ReverseEventStore.com, a website with several items to make your life and your daily routine easier. Offers free shipping to select locations and some of the fastest delivery times available. Make your purchase by clicking the Add to Cart button. More payment options will be shown to you. There are several products with more than 15% discount and free shipping. Visit the website now and get your product. Going back to the launch video, you can see from the telemetry that 3 engines were off, which Elon Musk clarified as, the system didn't think they were healthy enough to bring them to full operation, so they were shut down.
Fecha aspas.
A very valid explanation, but other theories challenge it. because surely that rain of concrete pieces flying everywhere must have hit and caused significant damage to the rocket. And that would partly explain why 3 engines didn't ignite. In the video released by SpaceX shortly after the launch, you can see the rocket leaving the tower with unusually high horizontal speed. And shortly after, the rocket manages to stabilize itself. Musk also explained the reason for this. The loss of the 3 engines caused Starship to tilt to the side as it was ascending. We normally don't expect a tilt. It should actually be going straight up, end quote. And more evidence of what the debris rain may have done to the rocket. It appears at 29 seconds into the flight. A small explosion occurs, followed by several flashes, then one engine explodes. Telemetry updates show the 4th engine is lost. At 55 seconds into the flight, again, you can see some flashes coming from the engine, followed by a bright flash. It was the loss of the 5th engine. And if we look at this frame more closely, we can see something interesting. The outer ring is made up of 20 engines. And if we count, we can see that only 15 engines are on. That means 5 engines are off. And the innermost ring is made up of only 3 engines, of which only 2 are on. So in total, there are 6 engines off, not 5, as the telemetry shows. And at 2 minutes and 25 seconds, the onboard camera shows the moment when the whole assembly starts spinning out of control. Stage separation was supposed to happen, but it didn't. It was actually the start of the end for Starship's flight. It would continue spinning out of control for a while longer until it was destroyed by the flight termination system, which, out of curiosity, took more than 40 seconds to activate. That's not a normal event either. Loss of control and the resulting spins remain unexplained. The cause is still unknown. It may have been due to hydraulic system failure or another system, which could very likely have been caused by damage from the shower of debris at the time of launch. This may have struck the rocket and caused the loss of this vital flight system. And if we go back to 57 seconds into the flight, we can see another interesting detail. The graph shows a rather excessive consumption of liquid oxygen. This may suggest a leak or high engine consumption of this liquid. What can be said is that Starship's flight could have been successful right on the first launch, with all stages of the flight having been successfully achieved. That is, if it weren't for possible and significant damage suffered at the moment of launch. Speaking of the launch, check out this photo. This photo was taken after the launch of NASA's rocket, the SLS. Look at the condition of the pad, with practically no significant damage. It's not just the SLS. Several rockets have launched, yet damage like this has rarely occurred. So why did Starship cause so much damage to the launch pad? The answer lies in the launch pad itself, which, by the way, doesn't include several important systems to lessen the blast, the sound, the shock waves, and the combined force of the engines. And one of these important systems is the flame trench or flame deflector. Well, as we can observe in rocket launches, especially with the space shuttles, the gases from the 3 engines are directed away from the rocket, and the gases from the solid fuel rockets are directed to the other side. This exhaust gas direction system. It is extremely important, and incredibly it maintains the integrity of the rocket and the concrete, as well as the safety of the astronauts on board. They are kept safe. That's because it sends powerful shock waves away from the rocket. If they weren't properly directed, they could bounce off the ground in nearby structures and return to the rocket, causing the rupture of the fuel tanks, for example. And the part that does this directing is the flame deflector, not included on the Starship launch platform. Another important system is the water deluge system, or deluge system, which basically releases tons of water under the launch platform. This water interacts with the powerful shock waves generated by the engines, as well as the sound and noise. It greatly reduces them and lessens their destructive power. That's a simplified explanation. It's actually more complex. And that's another one of the systems that wasn't included on the Starship's launch platform, which is why there was so much significant damage. Elon Musk himself admitted that the team relied only on data from static tests carried out with just 50% engine power. Well, it's not that there was no water on SpaceX's platform. However, and the intensity was well below what was needed for a rocket of that size. Comparing it to the water released for the less powerful space shuttles makes it clear. Remember that the Starship is twice as powerful as the Saturn V. SpaceX already had plans to include a water deluge system. However, it wasn't ready in time for the test flight. But several videos already show them installing this system for the next test flights, including protective barriers around the platform to prevent damage to other structures, like the tanks that store propellants, which ended up being hit by debris during the last flight. But a new flight will happen soon, and for sure, the failures that happen this time won't happen next time. SpaceX knows how to fail, learn from failures, and keep making continuous progress. And most likely, it won't be long before we become a multiplanetary species.